Welcome back to the farm, everyone. We somehow missed the 2 rains they were calling for yesterday afternoon and this morning, and the fields, as you can see, look pretty dry. The good Lord's also going to have the blast furnace on today with the weather forecasted to be 80 degrees, clear skies, and windy outside, which really starts to complicate our decision making here. Is it too early to plant corn? Probably. Is it too early to plant beans? No. Here's the multi-model precipitation forecast courtesy of Eric Snodgrass at agweather.com. You can see the link below on my browser on the iPhone here. It isn't the early rains that we've missed that concern me with the possibility of planting more beans. It is these large rains and the total predicted precipitation at the end. On this 10-day forecast, 2 of these models are calling for 4.5 inches of rain. The other is 3.5 to 4. That's a lot of rain over a 10-day period. Most of you probably find this information rather bland, and I can't blame you. I'm trying to put you in my head to explain the things we have to weigh as we calculate our decisions. If we plant these beans and get 4.5 inches of rain on them, the likelihood of them coming up and surviving greatly comes down. That's not to say that they can't emerge and have great success come harvest. It's just that the odds start to shift back away from them having great emergence. We've got another 4 weeks statistically here in central Illinois before you kind of get outside of that top end yield potential window for soybeans. We're not going to talk about corn today because I think it's off the table. Too early, not an ideal forecast, and corn likes perfection out of the gate. Beans, they can really just get put through the blender and somehow still put on big yields if it rains at the right time. This field right here is going into corn in the next few weeks, hopefully, and it's a shame that I'm not confident in planting said corn because that is beautiful. And it's still early. The sun's hardly even cracked over the horizon. That'll be an absolute onion bed in another couple hours. Yet, we're gonna hold off. These corn stalks need some sunshine as well.
Okay, Andy. Use your wrench. Whoa, stop. Watch in case the field cultivator moves.
Jump in the bin, the auger.
I got all the way down, top hammer strap was worn out. We just replaced it. We got that hammer strap replaced. Now Jeff is fueling up tractors and cleaning windows. He made a mess yesterday working in the rain with that one. I shouldn't have mentioned the sun coming out because now it's hiding behind the clouds. That is the X factor of drying, is sunshine. On Helena's recommendation, the retailer we work with, we're replacing the drain plugs on our tender trailer pumps with just straight up valves. So when it comes time to clean out ahead of a frost or anything, we can actually put a bucket under this or something, since we've got this 90-degree elbow on, and legitimately just drain out into a collected manner, as opposed to the uncontrolled waterfall that comes out if you just pull out the plug. There's the wind. A little more. It's closed. Come to clean out, we can put a bucket under here, a pan or something, anything but having a mess just shoot out when you pull the plug. That reminds me, I really need to get some sight tubes on the other trailer. That would make the operator's life much easier. That would be a perfect project if we get the 4 inches of rain they're calling for, because we will have some downtime. Everyone's thirsty this morning. That's got to be a sign, right? A prepubescent eagle, kind of a rocky road color. Does that mean plant today? Plant corn, plant beans? While I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs, deciding what we should do and what kind of hand Mother Nature is probably going to deliver us, I do want to talk about today's video. It is super special because we are partnering with Corteva to promote Pioneer's new Z-Series soybeans. If you are a soybean grower in the United States and you have not heard of Pioneer's new Z-Series soybeans, quite frankly, I think you've been living under a rock. The Z-Series lineup of Pioneer are their newest generation of proprietary soybean genetics, the culmination of multiple decades of research, and something that you can only get in a Pioneer soybean bag. Although there are other competitors on the market with a strong portfolio, I do think Pioneer has really taken a step ahead of their competition, both in corn and soybeans in the last few years. Their breeding and their platform as a whole has been phenomenal. From the technology side of things, all the way down to the genetics and the local level service from our salesmen and our agronomists. Shout out to Bruce Daly, Wes Duckett, and of course Paul Yoder. They have everything you need to be successful. Based on the recommendation of our dealer, our agronomist, and just kind of sifting through local plot data, about 80% of our soybean acres are going to go into 3 Z-Series soybeans this year. They're either going to be the 31 Z03 enlist beans that we planted over there a couple days ago on that good productive ground. We are going to have 38 Z63s like we planted here 2 weeks ago. We've also planted them on another farm. If we plant later today, it's going to be more of those. We've got quite a bit of these 38 Z63s. I really like the yield data I saw out of them. And then on some of our more marginal, less productive soils, we are going to be planting some 40 Z57. So we're going to have a 3-1 bean, a 3-8 bean, and a 4-0. Over the 5 years that I've been making videos here on this channel, we've had the conversation about genetics multiple times. Corn and soybean plants individually have pros and cons. Much like you and I, we all have things we're better at and we're worse at. Pioneer's breeders have gone in and done decades of highly advanced, sophisticated genealogy work, data analytics to find the best things in every maturity range, the best agronomic packages from emergence to disease resistance, and bring those to the market in a diverse lineup of soybean genetics, and of course corn, but I'm just here to talk to you about beans. The 38 Z63s, for instance, that we planted a couple weeks ago, great early season emergence, part of the reason we kind of got gung-ho with them. Good disease resistance and great yield potential across a wide variety of acres. These have been in the ground for 2.5 weeks now. You can see that they're starting to come to life. They got a little ways to go because the soil's cold, but there's not a single variety or even company's genetics that I would want to work with and trust to fight the good fight and maximize the growing season early and hopefully result in 100+ bushel beans. That may require some cooperation from Mother Nature. Here's another one a couple feet away that I dug up. That last one may have got caught by the screwdriver. With 80-degree weather today, 60s to 70s for the next week, we ought to see these beans here in 10 to 14 days. Put them back so they have a good chance. I think those seagulls are out there heckling me, making some kind of sinister noise. They must work for a competitor of Pioneer. This is the life right here. Disappear for an hour, checking fields, which is code for pretending to work. Just kidding, it is actually important. Come back, clean windows on the tractors, full fuel tanks, and Mother Nature, she's trying to dry now. The jokes about not being very productive and doing very little are hilarious and also fair game because I'm actually probably the lowest seniority person here on the farm. Yes, I do get quite a bit of freedoms here as a family member. At the same time, again, I've got the least amount of say. I went out to untangle one of the harrows and my hat blew away. I had to chase after it, if that tells you how windy it is today. And the corn stalks are still plenty damp. We're dragging them. It's probably still too early. Plenty of moisture and the wind just picked up in the last 30 minutes. This little bit I've worked so far looks pretty good. We've got about 250 acres right here that probably would plant today. They're all going to go into the Pioneer 38Z63 enlist beans. I think that we can have good yields. I just don't know what these rains next week do in terms of emergence. Really, it's hard to say what the best decision is without having a crystal ball to look forward 6 weeks.
Scattered showers, isolated storms Saturday, breezy and 69, up to 72 and breezy Sunday. But severe weather is likely Sunday afternoon. We could be talking about tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail. So definitely monitor that as we go into the weekend, especially Sunday. That's your WAND weather forecast. I'm meteorologist Anthony Peoples.
The cavalry has arrived. Jeff's out here working now as well. Katie just got here, so we're going to go ahead and switch off. She's going to run the other field cultivator. I'm going to start getting the planter ready to get these E-Series beans in the ground. I've not stepped outside of the tractor cab in at least an hour and a half, and the wind is picking up even worse, which is a good thing because it's drying things out. It's just not the best day to have a loose-fitting hat on. I think I'm going to have to retire my hat for the rest of the day, or it's going to be 5 counties over. We got a few too many of the 31 Z03s in the tank from the last field, as opposed to just blending them in with the 3/8 we're about to plant. Dad and I are going to dump them out and just save them for the next time we plant these beans, because I think we've got a couple hundred more acres of them to do. This wind is insane right now. It's blown all of the dust, or most of the dust, off of my tractor from planting the other few days. The delivery chute on top of this harvestor seems kind of like a workplace hazard. The wind's got it blowing all around. That's done, and there were no workplace injuries. It doesn't have to be surgically cleansed. We just want to get most of those 3-1s out because there's really no reason to intermingle bean varieties if you're not trying to do it on purpose. I'm sorry, folks. I tried to take my drone up and get some awesome footage of tillage and then mesh it into planting, except it's way too windy, and that's very abnormal. Usually, even with a strong breeze, I can fly this DJI Mavic 3. Not today. It's brutal outside. So instead of flying my drone, I'm gonna go spray a little bit. That seems like a more responsible thing to do. Beautiful. Field cultivator keeps dragging out. Just your normal old family meeting right there. Nothing important was accomplished. Dad has called me off on a couple fields that I wanted to plant, so instead of planting the entire 250 acres behind us, we are going to wait on the wettest 90, because if it does rain a lot, those will be the most problematic. I think that's a pretty safe call. We're still going to try a little bit, just not all of it. That's fair. Chris went to get a big load of seed beans from the Pioneer dealership. I'm just sitting here waiting, staying protected from the wind. Jeff went somewhere, and I don't know what Katie's up to. It's above my pay grade. I'm not sure Katie knows what's going on either. That's okay. Makes 2 of us. Here comes 200 units of beans. Watch out, you might get run over. No kidding. apologize for the wind. Jeff's back home from whatever mission he was on. We've got our tanks full of Pioneer 38 Z63 Enlist soybeans. Obviously, soybeans aren't normally green. They're kind of a yellowish beige color. Pioneer's trademark on their treatment is green for their soybeans, kind of like their brand colors. So they put that dye or whatever it is on our full spectrum fungicide, insecticide. We put an inoculant in there, a lot of different things, SDS treatment, because we want these beans to have the best shot at maximizing yield potential. A part of bringing up the bushels on these beans versus the competition for Pioneer's breeding program was focusing more on offensive yet defensive agronomic traits when it comes to the emergence, disease tolerances, SDS, Phytophthora, Pythium. There's a lot of them I could name off here. The Z series is supposed to conquer all that opposition. We do add that extra seed treatment to kind of protect earlier in the season. We're going out early. These beans are going to be in the soil for quite a while before they emerge. We think that those extra products help enhance the germplasm, the genetics we're putting out, and maximize opportunity for these 38 Z63s to grow 100 bushel beans. Time to head to the field, putting the 3/8 in our mapping system. We're gonna drop these at 160,000. I know it's dense, but it's early and we don't know what kind of weather we're gonna have over the next 2 weeks. Rather have too many than not enough. I planned a little bit, did my walk around, everything looks good to go. I'm not gonna change any of the settings because I'm looking for the same target depth, pretty much row preparation, everything similar to how it was the other day. Nothing's changing. As long as we don't have any issues, we're gonna put the hammer down and get these beans placed in the ground. I know some people are intrigued by what metrics I watch on the displays as I roll through the field. On my planner display, I'm mainly just keeping track of population and variance. We're not running an exact emerge planner here, so it's not going to be perfect. That's why I'm targeting 158, not 160. I'm expecting to get some doubles out there. Just trying to get it close enough that we have the population we're looking for with soybeans. And I also watch my ground contact, which is how much the ride is against the ground. There's another metric which is called ride quality, and that basically tells you how bumpy it is. I'm not going to show that one because it makes me look like a bad farmer. These corn stalks are pretty rough. Targeting 170 pounds of downforce margin in these worked corn stalks. On my tractor display, I just have a map, my hydraulics I have running. One's running the seed fan, the other 3 are vacs. Your basic stuff, engine power usage, slip percentage, PTO speed, that's running the generator, auto steer, you name it, we've got it all. I've never become any more of a fan of the positioning of some of these high voltage lines. They're kind of inconvenient to farm around. We're about halfway done. We're going to move into the next area of this field, put on some new inrows, and then fill back up with the last load. This field right here to the south, it's actually 3 fields, about 90 acres. That's the one Dad wanted to refrain from planting. If we do get big rains like they're forecasting, half of that'll be underwater, and it's probably not a recipe for success, and we don't want to waste our seed and our treatment and our effort just for the sake of doing it. This is also only our 2nd year planting beans this early. Maybe if we have no issues even getting rain, next year we can kind of reevaluate with that data set, and if it looks good, we might plant that. We're just tiptoeing our way to figuring out what's right. And then once we have that figured out, it'll probably change again. And boundary track we trust. Hopefully whoever mapped this did a good job. Is up to taking the nap I planned on taking when it was supposed to rain this morning. Probably. Chris is headed to the seed tender because I think I'm gonna have to top off here to finish this. Ladies, it's not exactly the time for this. Excuse me, pardon me, please move. Coming through. Oh, these things are fearless. No wonder they've survived for so long. Look at them trotting away. They'll be back out here in just a second, I'm sure. That unworked spot right there is where I planted the 1 acre check strip 2 weeks ago of the same soybean variety, no-till into a stale seedbed. I had to instruct both field cultivator operators multiple times to please not work that up, because I want the data to see if there's any difference in 2 weeks of planting date. They could be better, they could be the same, could be worse, you never know. I've been sitting in the cab here for maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I really need to get out and use the restroom, but I've refrained from that due to fear of the wind. I don't even know what it's like outside. I've been in my climate controlled cab and you can't feel the wind in here. The dust indicates that it hasn't really settled. Chris is coming down the road right now. We're gonna top off here in a little bit. We'll get an answer to whether or not it's still windy. I thought we were going to be able to make that work, but this ditch is wider than I thought, and deeper. I got us into this mess, so it'd be wrong of me to criticize Chris's backing abilities. That's better. I mentioned the green is the seed treatment, obviously. The grayish stuff is the talc graphite powder we use. That helps lubricate the seed delivery tubes, the meters, everything. Nowadays, some people are starting to put micronutrient packs and starter blends into the talc products and try to deliver those with the seed while also lubricating seed flow. I've seen some solid data on those products. I've not really tried any legitimately on my own. Definitely something worth looking into. We are back off to the races. One of the best parts about these Pioneer Z-Series soybeans is the fact that they have the Enlist herbicide trait technology in them. The Enlist trait provides herbicide resistance to some very effective modes of action that we make use commonly in post-emergence in soybeans, and pre-emergence for that matter. Glyphosate, glufosinate, and of course Enlist. That trifecta, especially if you tank mix them together with the proper adjuvants, are lethal on herbicide-resistant water hemp. I do always recommend that you make use of residuals both pre-plant and with your post-application. Layering in those group 15s especially is very helpful in stopping those troublesome weeds. For us, that's mostly water hemp, maybe a little bit of giant ragweed. If you can layer those residuals in and keep them from emerging, that's 75% of the battle. Then you couple the Enlist platform in there and being able to tank mix the Enlist 2,4-D choline, the glufosinate, and the Roundup, and you've got a killer combination to take care of your fields. I'll be the first to admit I was a really big fan of the Extend platform when it first came out. Really, it beat the Enlist traits to the market. The problem with Extend is that dicamba as a chemistry, although extremely effective with multiple positives, is outweighed by the negatives of it being very unneighborly, to say the least. High drift and volatilization concerns, hurting off target crops, plants, gardens. You've made it very difficult, at least here in central Illinois, to make use of that chemistry, and actually it's almost impossible to spray it at this point legally on label with the restrictions they've placed to make it less problematic, I guess is the best way to put it. I know it's different in every region. Here in my neck of the woods in central Illinois, Coles County, most growers, I'd say 70%, are using an Enlist trait or at least using glufosinate only. Because I like the ability to use the Enlist herbicide, the 2,4-D choline, along with Liberty, if you want to couple them together, I do think the Enlist platform is the best herbicide platform on the market right now if you want to make use of it. Obviously, there's competitive choices out there you can make. None of them are bad. I just personally think Enlist has the shiniest set of tools in the toolbox. There's that spot we planted the other day. Section control will turn off as we go across, and we should have a nice little check strip. Because these beans aren't up yet, I'm just going to plant straight through them, make my life a little easier. I always get the most enjoyment out of this farm here south of the Homestead area. According to our records, this farm as an 80-acre parcel was purchased in 1847. So that puts us at 177 years of ownership by our family. Farmland has obviously appreciated quite a bit since then. I don't know if we are lucky or smart or most likely just stubborn. Regardless, I'd love to get in a time machine and just observe what life was like out here 177 years ago. I bet a thing or two has changed since then. I have been asking myself a little bit over the last few years if we should consider starting a cattle herd again. Livestock is what built our farm and sustained farms like ours for generations. It's been a new thing in the last 3 or 4 decades to get rid of the livestock because you can make as much money and live an easier lifestyle just raising cash crops like corn and soybeans, maybe wheat. I don't have a strong opinion either way. I've just been kind of pondering the idea. Maybe that's what we should do. It definitely makes keeping more people on the farm viable. That labor's needed. There's money, especially in cattle as of late. Although the minute I start a herd, they'll probably go back to profitless. I now have 2 separate trials out here. There is the March 13th planting date, and then these red areas, this round and a half, are planted at a thinner population. I dropped 10% off to see if there's any yield difference, if we have less lodging here. That's the concern with going higher populations early, is if you do get a large viable stand, sometimes you get so much vegetative growth that your beans actually lay over. That becomes a great breeding ground for disease and other issues, sometimes harvestability, although not normally. We'll see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost done for the night. Ah, go figure. Ran out of seed with about 2 acres left. There's a little bit of seed in, just not enough to feed evenly. No worries though, Dad's gonna grab me probably some of those 3-1 beans we emptied out. We'll finish the last 2 acres here, get a little test plot.
Katie Dole.
Now Katie's calling me. Look at that view. Wow. Great way to end the night. It's not embarrassing to run out of seed once, but if you immediately run out again before finishing the field, now that would be embarrassing, and that did not happen. Finally made it back in, safe from the wind, and what I think is the end of a day of planting with potentially high yields come harvest. Alrighty folks, it's time to close the doors on today, sit back, kick our feet up, and see what Mother Nature has in store for us over the next week in terms of rainfall. I want to give you all a big shout out for watching today's video, and before I let you go, one last mention of Corteva, Pioneer, and of course their awesome Z-Series soybeans like we've put in the ground in multiple fields so far this year. If you can't tell, I'm super excited about them. If you're interested in learning more about their current lineup, go to Pioneer's website or follow the link in the description or down below in the comments. I'll have one pinned. Click on that, check them out. I'm obviously a little bit biased, a huge fan of Pioneer and their product line, both on the corn and soybean side. Their breeding and their advancements the last few years have been phenomenal, and I think that they're starting to take a little bit of a lead versus some of their biggest competitors. Again, I recommend you go check out their product line, see if something that may fit your farm this season or into next growing season. If you want to see how they perform on our farm, I think I do one of the best jobs of any of the YouTubers about being transparent about our yields, our successes and our failures, so follow along this growing season. I'll show you how they all do, the pros and the cons, what we see, what we like, what we don't like. You can count on me to provide a realistic and transparent view of kind of what happens on the farm. It's not always a grand slam, though I'm hoping that these beans we planted here in early and late March might end up being one of those grand slams. 100+ bushel yields like we've seen these Z-Series beans do in plots around the country. I'm gonna take off, everyone. Appreciate you all tuning in. Sure hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day, everyone. Peace.